So it's a deja vu update on the Parole Board from the Governor's Council this morning. Last weekend, the Boston Globe ran an editorial about the board, sounding a lot of the concerns that I've been sounding for years, and in fact that the Globe itself sounded 2 years ago this month when they quoted me as pointing out that the delays in processing clemency petitions perpetuates injustice in our Commonwealth. The difference between 2021 and 2023 is that currently, with 3 open parole board seats, I couldn't be more excited to have Governor Healy and her team vetting candidates and preparing to put nominees forward to the Governor's Council for these roles. I've been working very hard behind the scenes, recruiting candidates, encouraging candidates, advocating for them to the administration, and I'm extremely optimistic that we're going to see someone with a social work background on the parole board soon, and I'm extremely optimistic that we're going to see someone from Central Massachusetts on the parole board soon as well. So rather than belabor things, you can just see what I had to say about it 2 years ago.
There's a motion and a second.
Comment, Lieutenant Governor.
Yes, Councilor DiPaolo.
Regarding this vote, I want to say that there's an urgent need for reform on the parole board because there is delayed justice, thus justice denied by inordinate delays in hearings. We continue locking people up on technical non-criminal violations. There's a failure to hold commutation hearings, only 2 in the last 6 years. And all of this perpetuates injustice. Black and Latino citizens face 30 days longer sentences than similarly situated white citizens. The parole board needs to be using, in my estimation, its power to address these injustices now. And yet there have only been 2 commutation hearings in the last 6 years. No taxpayer wants to be spending $70,000 per year to lock someone up because of the color of their skin. We also know that mental illness is prevalent and often undiagnosed or untreated. And we know that prison re-traumatizes until the trauma manifests in negative behavior. We should be concerned about how a parole board reacts when that behavior is in a petitioner's file. And this is a bipartisan issue. The Donald Trump Department of Justice says the Commonwealth routinely violates our citizens' civil rights in our Department of Corrections. People who need mental health counseling are having their problems exacerbated while in state custody because of the board's failure to hold hearings in a timely manner. And I want to see a nominee who's well-versed in the present board's function and has a vision for how it can improve. This nominee, in preparation for the hearing, had not read the Harvard study on racial disparities, was not familiar with the Legislative Commission on Structural Racism in the parole system, nor the Mass Bar Association's Clemency Task Force, nor the State Auditor's audit of the Parole Board, nor the Department of Justice's report on Massachusetts Department of Corrections. And I believe this all starts in the juvenile system. I've worked with at-risk kids for most of my career. I've seen them re-traumatized in the name of tough love or accountability. This nominee worked for several years as a juvenile probation officer. And while I believe that this nominee and everyone in our juvenile system works for what they believe to be the best interest of the children, there's certainly more perspective on what that means, more than one. I think we need a therapeutic, personalized approach that considers the context of the child, and I think the parole board needs the same approach in dealing with petitioners. And numerous petitioners I spoke with, not merely the email discussed at the hearing, described the nominee's approach in her years as a juvenile probation officer as punitive. In my discussion with the nominee stated that they'd never seen an unfair, unjust condition placed on a child requiring assistance, formerly known as CHINS. Perhaps this depends on one's perspective of what's fair or just, but when conditions are placed on a child that brain science and environmental factors suggest the child cannot possibly meet, that to me is unfair and unjust. This nominee is a dedicated public servant who served the Commonwealth in integrity and is an exemplary member of the Sex Offender Registry Board, but I don't believe she's the person we need on the parole board at this urgent moment. I want to applaud the governor and administration for putting forward the first woman of color for any position since I've been on the council. I believe the administration is committed to diversifying the bench in boards and commissions, and I look forward to seeing a diverse pool of parole and judicial nominees going forward. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.